Okay, great. Okay, so we are so excited to have CLDP with us today from the Department of Commerce. They're going to be speaking about digital marketing and the exporting market to the US and foreign markets. I know that's super relevant for so many of you here. So I know you're going to get a lot of really great information today. And we have this recorded for the rest of the ladies that will be joining us maybe when they're off work or out of school. So I'm happy to introduce Karen and Marianne. Maybe let's turn it over to Marianne first so she can introduce herself.
Yes, so my name is, good evening, everybody. My name is Marianne Guerin McManus. I am a senior counsel with the Commercial Law Development Program. It is in the Ministry of Commerce of the United States. And our office works on technical assistance with a number of developing countries. We are very active in the Maghreb. We've been very active in Morocco for a number of years. And about 4 years ago, we started working on a export initiative in partnership with the Ministry of Handicraft and Maison de l'Artisan. And the goal was to support local small Moroccan enterprises, in particular artisan enterprises, and help them increase their exports. And so we have implemented over the last 4 years a lot of activities, a lot of trainings. Most of those trainings you can actually find online with the MDA on their website at the Maison de l'Artisan. And there's also an export guide for artisans that goes over pretty much everything you need to know to be effective at exporting. And that is also a guide that you can find actually both on our website at cldp.gov, or you can find it on the US Embassy website. And you can, it's a PDF and you can download it. If you want a hard copy, it's also at the Maison de l'Artisan. So since we've been working in Morocco, we have really worked on all the different aspects of the export process. We worked with Moroccan partners, we worked with the Moroccan government, we worked with Moroccan customs as well as US customs. We also worked with the Moroccan Postal Service as well as expeditors. We also worked with artisans on helping them prepare for international expos, how to work with professional buyers. And the reality is that in Morocco, you have a lot of talent, you have incredible crafts. And the biggest problem really is that meeting the expectations of international buyers on the international market. And that is really what this last phase of work that we are doing is focused on. And I'm, over the last year, we've been working really closely with Karen, who has a company called By Hand Consulting. And they work all over the world with developing countries, local artisans. They've done really extraordinary work in places like Peru and Guatemala. And so we wanted to engage them more in the Maghreb. And so we started working together on a number of initiatives. And so obviously today, Karen is going to be talking to you about what you can do to really raise your capacity to export and deal with international buyers. At the same time, I will tell you a couple words about a toolkit that we're working on right now that is basically covers all the different aspects of export and how to meet the expectation of foreign buyers. And that is a separate project that we'll be happy to share with you perhaps at a later date. Maybe we can do another seminar or maybe we'll be there in person and be able to give you that binder in person, which would be really exciting because I think everybody's really keen on going back in the field and meeting people. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Karen and pass the baton, and so she can talk to you about the marketing tools and customer relationships, which I think have been particularly important since the COVID crisis started, since so much was transferred to working online and being active virtually. But I think that once we get out of the COVID crisis, people who have made the effort to work remotely are not only going to be able to continue doing that, but then they'll also be able to combine that with all the talents that they have in working person to person, with tourists or local buyers. So I think it will make everybody a lot stronger technically by going through this this experience, which I'm sure is not fun for anybody. So that's it for me. Karen, over to you.
Yeah. So thank you, Marianne, for that nice introduction and overview. So just a little bit of background about me. So I have worked for 25 years with artisan businesses all over the world to help them develop export marketing strategies. And then I also work with brands and retail stores and wholesale companies here in the US market to help them set up supply chain relationships to work with artisan businesses. So it's like I work on both sides of the supply chain. But one thing to comment on is that I am really, I'm an export marketing person. So this presentation will really be geared towards export marketing. There's a lot of the same principles that you apply to your local markets as well. So, but my kind of default is to talk about how you as a business in Morocco can sell to, my specialty is the US market, but really to export marketing. So let's begin. Oops. There we go. So today we're going to talk about connecting with your customer. So how to use digital marketing tools to strengthen your relationships with your customers. So what we know today and what we know as a result of COVID and its impact on the global market are two things. One is that through all this impact of COVID, it is so important that you stay connected to your customer. So even if they're not buying from you at this moment, it's important to maintain that relationship and maintain that connection with them. The second thing that we know is that digital tools and platforms are increasingly important. So COVID has just driven more reliance on digital marketing tools in all levels of the distribution channel. So that's really why this presentation and this discussion is so important. So what can you all do, right, as artisan entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs in today's market? One is you can use new digital tools, or maybe use some of your existing digital tools more effectively in your business. That's one thing you can do, and that we'll look at in this presentation. And the second thing that you can do is develop new messaging, right? New messaging that really appeals to how your customer is thinking in today's market. And we actually have a separate webinar that's about that, right? What are customers thinking today? But today we'll really talk about these digital tools. So one truth in all of this is that a digital strategy is not the same as a marketing strategy, right? So just creating an Instagram account, right, or a social media account is not a marketing strategy. Just creating a website is not a marketing strategy, right? It is one part of a marketing strategy, but it's not the complete strategy. So in my work, this is the methodology that we use to help artisan entrepreneurs create a marketing strategy. Right? So we go through these 6 different steps. So we talk about understanding the target market that you want to sell into, identifying and understanding your customer, so who you're going to sell to, defining your distribution channel and understanding those costs, right? Defining your product, then determining what tools you use and what activities you need in order to connect to your customer. So you'll see in this process, right, from market to customer to channel to product to tools and activities, it's really only at the end of this strategy that you figure out which tools are the right tools for your business and to reach your customer. So again, it's not, what you need to figure out is who your target customer is and understand them so well, right, that your product fits them and it can sell to them, but also that you're using the right digital tools with the right messages to engage them. So digital marketing tools are part of an overall marketing plan and strategy. So now a couple of basics in determining which tools to use and how to use them is the first step is really knowing who your customer is and defining who your customer is. And so often we think about who that end consumer is, but I really want you to think about who is the person or the business that you are going to have a transaction with. So who you're selling to me, is understanding, are you selling to the end consumer? Are you selling to a small retail store? Are you trying to sell to a large retail store that might have distribution all over the country? Or are you selling to a wholesaler? So that's a really important decision for you to make in your marketing strategy before you determine which digital tools to use. Okay. Can you sell to all 4 types? Yes, but you're going to have to use digital tools differently for each of them, right? So you're going to have 4 different marketing strategies. So that's the first step, is really saying, I want to sell to the end consumer, or I want to sell to retail stores, or I want to sell to a wholesaler. After you define that, then what you want to do is you want to understand what is what we call customer journey. So, right, what happens between the time that they become aware of you and your brand and your offer, all the way to the point that they are doing business with you on a regular basis, right? So what is that journey? Now, that journey is going to be different for these 4 different types of customers, right? And that journey is going to be different if you're a high-end customer versus if you're a mass market customer, right? So really understanding what is their journey. And then once you determine their journey, then you figure out what role do digital tools play in each stage of their journey. Okay, so for artisan businesses selling to the export market, right? Selling to the end consumer, if you want to export, is extremely difficult. So for export marketing, my recommendation, and in the work that I've done, our recommendation is you try to sell to a retail store or to a wholesale company. So each digital tool that you use, right, is going to have a different role at each point in this journey. Okay, so if you want to sell to, for example, a wholesale company, right, they're not going to be placing orders on your website. They're going to be developing products with you through email, So having a website with an e-commerce capability is not useful in your journey of creating a relationship with that customer. Okay, so before, everybody likes to think that they need this beautiful Instagram account, right? Before you determine, do you need a beautiful Instagram account, really understand how does Instagram play a role in that customer's journey. So the second step that's really important in digital marketing tools is to define your brand. So, and what do I mean by that, right? Your brand is not just your logo and the name of your company, right? Your brand is really defining what are your values, right? What are the things that you care about in the work that you're doing? Some examples could be maybe you care really about creating jobs for women, or maybe what you care about is just creating beautiful, very innovative, very design trendy products. Maybe what you care about is using natural materials, right? Maybe what you care about is preserving culture and preserving some of the traditional crafts. So really getting clear on what are your values as an artist and as a business person. And then what is your business's purpose, right? Those values and purpose might be very clearly aligned. Your purpose might be to run a profitable company, right? Your purpose might be to create jobs in the area in your community or where you're from. Your purpose might be to promote the beauty of Morocco's unique culture. And then what you decide is, what are your signature styles? What are the products? What are the colors? What are the techniques or motifs that are really, that reflect you and your brand? Right? What are some of the images that you want to use? What are some of the feelings that you want people to have? So spend some time writing all of these down, right? Keeping them on a piece of paper very close to you, because consistency of this brand, of these values, purpose, and style, you want there to be a consistency through all the digital tools that you use, right? Because the more consistent you have, the more of an identity you form, and the more attached customers become to that identity. So branding really creates this continuity of your message that you can use through digital tools. So I encourage people to take a big piece of paper and tape it on your wall, right? And write down those values, right? Take a few photos of images of artisans or countryside or products that are your favorite images, right? And have printed copies of those on this big poster of paper, right? And then write down some of the words around style, right? Because you just want to go back and repeat those over and over again in your social media accounts, on your website, in your email, right? And all the ways that you're using digital tools. Now, this is also a great way as you're looking at other people's websites or at their Instagram accounts or social media accounts. Study some of their digital tools, right? See if you can figure out by looking at their social media accounts, what are their values? What's their purpose as a company? What are some of their key style definitions? Right? See if you can identify it. And I promise you that the better websites and the better Instagram accounts that you really like will have a very clear message there. So that's what you want to make sure that you create, because ultimately this will make your digital tools more effective. When you throw off all different kinds of images and all different kinds of messages, you don't get that same following of people. So the third thing is to really have an effective website. So an effective website, first and foremost, is an effective website supports your customer's journey. So often people believe that they need to have a website that is an e-commerce site, right? If you want to sell directly to the end consumer, yes, you need to have an e-commerce site. If you want to sell to a small retail store, a large retail store, or a wholesale company, you do not have to have an e-commerce site. So I would say 95% of the artisan businesses that I have worked with do not need to have an e-commerce site. Okay, it becomes so expensive and tedious to have one, and it's probably not going to support your customer's journey. So an effective website might be basically like a digital business card, right? Where you're reiterating your company's purpose, its values, your product offer, and how to be in touch with you. So that's the first thing, is make sure that your website supports your customer's journey. And most buyers, export buyers, use a website to validate an artisan business's mission, experience, product offer, and how to be in touch with them. Okay? And they go to that website to say, well, does the website look like the social media accounts that I've seen? Does it look the same as what I saw in the trade show? Does it look the same as the emails that I've received from them? If so, it's a validation, it's a stamp of approval that you are a professional company. Okay, the second most important thing about having an effective website, right? Because really, if people aren't going to be buying off your website, what you want to do is you want to show up in a Google search. Okay? So when somebody types in, a retail store thinks, I want to buy textiles from Morocco that are made by women. Right? So they type into the Google search, women-owned Moroccan business textiles. You want your business to show up, right, on that first page of searches in Google. Because we know that retail stores and wholesale companies use Google to search for suppliers. So how do you do that? That's called SEO marketing, right? Search engine optimization. And there are 3 things that are essential and that are relatively easy to accomplish. The first is you want to determine what are your key words, right? So when a buyer goes searching for your type of company, what are the words that they use to find you? So some of those words are going to be your brand and your brand statement. And then some of them are going to be non-brand, right? Is it Moroccan textiles? Is it Moroccan gift? Is it Moroccan fashion? Is it handmade fashion? Is it handmade jewelry? Is it artisan made jewelry, right? Determining what are some of those non-brand words. And then some of those, what we call long tail. So that's 3 to 4 to 5 words together. So what are the things? And you can play around on Google yourself, right? Start doing searches on Google and see what kind of companies show up when you use those Google searches, right? And if companies that are like yours show up with those Google word searches, those are the words that you want to use. Right. So in most cases, you're going to have about 10 to 15 words that you're going to make sure show up in your searches. Okay. Then you need to go into the title page. So in your website, whatever platform you're using, there's an opportunity for you to create title pages, title descriptions for each page. Put those words into the title description. Right? That's how you show up on searches. And then there's also called meta descriptions, which is like a call to action. But in most cases, just putting those words into your title pages will help you show up in searches, and will make sure that, again, that that buyer is able to find you based off of what they're looking for. If you want to invest some money to figure out what are the keywords for your company, there are two tools. One is Neil Patel Tools. Another one is called Answer the Public. And both of those, you have to pay money, but they can help you find and identify those keywords for your business and what you're doing. So an effective website is one that's beautiful, but also supports your customer journey and shows up in Google searches. Those are the two most important things to think about. The fourth thing, so the first thing we had to understand really define who your target customer is, understand their journey. The second is get those branding terms clear and defined. The third is have an effective website. Does not have to be complicated, it has to be effective. And the fourth is create an email strategy. So often we think that social media accounts are the most important. In fact, in my experience, email marketing is far more important than social media for a marketing tool. It is, in my experience working with artisan businesses, it is the most effective digital tool in terms of a return on your investment. And this is particularly for export. So if you're selling to retail stores or wholesale, it's shown to even be effective in selling to the end consumer. So what are the two things that you need to do? One is you need to develop a really good customer list. So your customer list, so these are the names of companies or people who have either purchased from you in the past, they're currently purchasing from you, or they might purchase from you in the future. That customer list is one of the most important assets of your business, hands down. You can keep a customer list in Google Sheets. You can keep it in Excel, or you can buy a more complicated customer relationship management system, but it needs to be something that you take care of, right? That you're always adding to or reviewing, right? It is one of the most important parts of your business. So you have to figure out how to grow it, right? How to find new people to add onto your list. And you might also need to segment it. Maybe you have customers that are local customers and customers that are export customers, right? But making sure that in your time every week or so that you spend some time taking care of this. The second part of this is to use some kind of email marketing service. There's a free one called HubSpot, or there are paid ones called like MailChimp or MyEmma or Constant Contact. So determine which one you want to use. They can give you all kinds of interesting data about who opens your email, who clicks on your email. And so they're just really useful. They help you maintain your customer list as well. So some of the best practices in email marketing is that for every email, you want to have one clear goal per email. Right? So you want to tell them to check out your new collection, or to place an order, or to read more about your brand, or discover the artisans who make the product, right? Just ask them to do one thing. So often we get these emails and they're asking the person to do multiple things. Just have them do one thing in an email. Right? And then, so it's a clear goal of what you want them to do, and then have a very clear call to action, right? Sometimes I'll see people who send out a beautiful image of a new product and they talk all about the product, right? But what you really want the buyer to do is you want them to buy the product, right? So then you'll have that beautiful picture of a product, but right underneath it, you need to have a link that says, place an order this product right now, right? So a very clear call to action. What do you want the person to do when they open up the email, they read the email, right? So make sure you are telling them to do that. Don't assume that they're going to know to order the product. Have a button that says, order this now, right? Another thing is that you want to make sure that all of these emails fit your brand personality. So do you have that same statement of your mission statement, colors, images, right? All of those brand definitions. We want to make sure that each email reflects that. Because people are visual, right? As we're opening up so many emails, one of the ways you're going to remember that company is by how it looks, not just the name that it sees. The next is make sure that all of these are very visual. You'll see this email here on the right? It starts off with an image and very simple text, right? We want to start with that. We don't want to start with a lot of words. We want to start with those very clear images. And then the last is create a schedule. So do you want to send out one email a month? Do you want to send it out quarterly? Do you want to send it out every other month, right? Just decide what your schedule is, schedule them in, and then keep that consistency. And as I said, with all of those email marketing programs, you get to go back in and you can see who opened your email, who actually clicked through on the links in the email, right? And that gives you an indication of who's really interested in your product, and then you can follow up with them more later. But then again, email marketing has the most effective return on investment of any digital tool. Here's a great example when we're talking about the consistency, right? Here's an email from a company called Lika that does home decor items and fashion items from the Philippines. Here is their website, right? So we see that consistency of color, of brand, right? Of images between their website and their email, right? So again, how branding can create that continuity. Here also, it's very clear what Lika wants you to do on this email. So this email, this is sort of the first part of the email, and this is the bottom part of the email. I had to cut and paste to fit it in here, right? So here they are announcing, right? Their goal is to announce their fall winter collection and get the buyer to place an order. Right? So you'll see that, very visual in how they introduce it. And then they have two buttons in the email that says shop now, right? That is their call to action, shop now. A little bit further down here, they also invite people to follow them on social media, to follow them on Facebook. So very clear, good continuity, visual, a clear call to action, not a lot of text, right? But a lot of very clear what you want the buyer to do. Here's another example. This is from a company called Orna in India. And this is their email message, right? And again, this is kind of the top part of the email, and this is the bottom part of the email. So what are they doing here? She always starts off her email with some emotional message to kind of connect the customer, because that's very important to her and who she is. So that comes through. And she's wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And then she's featuring her tote bags, right? So the call to action here is to get people to shop her tote bags, right? To place an order for their tote bags. A little further down, she also says there's a little call to action right there, is to meet some of the artisans. Right? So there's two call to actions in this one. And so, maybe a little more messages than others, but I think still very clearly it gets across. And you'll see this is her website. So you can see how there's just a very clear continuity in terms of color and brand and messages and images between her website and her email. Okay, so here is a group called Bawa Hope from from Kenya. And you'll see she started off her email with a beautiful image, right, of a woman making something by hand. And then she goes into lots of text. So in my mind, this email is not as effective because there's not a clear call to action as to what she wants people to do. It's just a message, right? There's no link in here as to, you know, only at the very, very bottom is there a link as to how people could get in touch with her. There's no images of product, right? There's not a lot of continuity aside from her logo. There's not a lot of continuity with her website. You see on her website, right? They are a jewelry company. You know, there's a jewelry company and you can buy from them right away. So this one, I think there's a little bit, I don't think the email is as effective, right? It doesn't have that clear link as to what you want the buyer to do. Hang on one second. My dog wants to go out the door and I know he's going to start barking. So, excuse me. Working at home.
Well, it's either that or having children climb all over
I
you.
know, exactly. You can do everything. You think you have it all perfectly organized. So there you go. We're all human. Okay, so back to this email. Not a clear call to action, right? Not really a clear goal, lots of words, much less effective. So, and she has a very effective website. So it's almost like she just has to apply on that website. You know exactly what she's selling and who she's selling to. So she needs to translate that to her email marketing. Okay. Fifth tip in digital marketing is to use social media appropriately. So going back again to your customer journey, right? Are you using social media to build up awareness about your brand? Are they going to place an order through social media and links in your social media account? Are they going to also, you know, is that where you're going to create your brand loyalty and your bond around it, right? So really understanding what role it plays. For the vast majority of artisan brands who want to sell to retail stores or to wholesale companies, social media accounts are not the most effective tools. So just really thinking about who is that customer that you want to reach and how do they use social media? Are they using Instagram and Facebook to stay in touch with their friends? Right? Or are they using Instagram and social media and Facebook in order to really search out new brands and activities? So how do you go about doing this? Look around a little bit at your competitive landscape. Who are the companies that are similar to yours in terms of the types of products they're offering and the customer they're selling to? Right? And how do they use social media channels to promote their brand? It's one really great way to do it. As you choose your social media, I'm not saying don't use social media channels. I'm just saying use them appropriately, right? We only have so many hours in the day and so many dollars in our marketing budget. So in most cases, you'll want to invest more in the email marketing than in the social media account, right? But in social media, choose no more than 2 channels, right? Do 1 or 2 channels well, rather than trying to do all of them, right? Again, define its purpose on your customer's journey. If the purpose is for them to discover you, then that's the kind of content you want to put on in your social media channels. If what they're going to do it for is just to get the extra history and to know you as a brand and create that loyalty, then that's the kind of content you want to. Make sure that all of your social media channels are coherent, that's cohesive with your branding. So that's logo, language, colors, and images, right? Also with social media, you want to think about how to convert your followers, right? If they're going to discover your brand on Instagram, but they're actually going to place orders through emailing with you, then you have to make sure that on your Instagram account is a very clear way that they can sign up for your email newsletters. So maybe once every, 6 posts, one of your posts is all about getting them to sign up for your email newsletter. Right? So use the social media channel to get them to communicate with you in the way that you know that they're going to place an order. Or let's say your buyers are going to place orders from you when they see you in person, right? At a trade show, in your showroom, right? So you want to use your social media account to drive them to come to that trade show or to your showroom or to your store. Then, very much like email marketing, you need to create a formula and a schedule. So decide what your formula is. Is your formula possibly, I'm going to do a post about a product, I'm going to do a post about an artisan, and then I'm going to do a post about how to connect with me, right? And so have that repeated throughout your posting, and do it on a regular basis, right? You don't want to all of a sudden dump 10 posts on Instagram and then be done with it for 3 months, right? So do it on a consistent basis. So kind of where do you all begin, right? I've just given a lot of information. So a good thing to start with is just to do a little bit of an audit, right? Understand what digital tools are you using today, right? So make a list of all of those. And then give yourself some time to think about what are the most successful ones, right? Which digital tools are bringing you the most customers and the most sales? Right? Sometimes we think about most successful is the number of likes on an Instagram post, right? Is that really bringing you sales, right? Where are your sales coming from? And how will you prioritize that in your digital tools? The next thing is think about what you could try in the next 2 weeks. Don't make a digital plan that's like 6 months long. One thing about digital tools is most often there's a lot of flexibility to kind of adapt them. So what are 3 things that you could do in the next 2 weeks? Maybe all that is going into your Instagram account and changing your heading, right, in your Instagram account to include a link to your website, right, and a link to how to sign up for an email newsletter. Maybe what you want to do in the next 2 weeks is just take all those different contacts that you have of all different customers and put it into one Excel list or Google Sheet so you have the start of a customer list. Maybe what you're going to do is you're going to investigate HubSpot and MyEmma to figure out which of those email marketing programs will be the best for you in your business. And the other thing to do is really create some definitions to measure what success is for you, right? So if success is purely sales, right? If I can see more sales coming out of the channel, that's going to be your measure for success. Maybe your measure for success is just acquiring new customers, right? Because you need more customers, not just more sales from existing customers. So try to think a little bit about what are those clear definitions of success, measurable, that you want to use to measure how successful your digital tools are in your marketing strategy. So just to summarize, right? We've covered a lot. One, you have to start from a very clear understanding of who is your target customer and what is their journey to discover, purchase, and follow your brand and have a long-term relationship with you. Second is define your brand, right? Have those clear words, images, colors, logos that you want to have consistent through all of your digital tools. The third is have an effective website. Fourth is create an email marketing strategy. Fifth is really use social media appropriately. So maybe that's spending a little bit less time on your Facebook and Instagram and a little more time on your email strategy. Can you tell that's what I recommend to most artisan groups? And then the sixth is just test and adjust, right? Decide one day a month, that's going to be your day to kind of look back over the last month and decide what worked, what didn't work, what do I want to do in the next month ahead. So I hope that that has been helpful in you thinking about how to use digital tools to stay connected to your customer.
Thank you so much, Karen. I definitely think that they're going to use these strategies. And from my understanding, I don't think any of the women in our program have a website. So this is a really great incentive for them to get the ball rolling on that for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and a website can be really simple. You know, it can be a single page, it can be just 3 pages. Yeah, actually I can say, if you're going to do a website, I would